Wherever this finds you, I hope this finds you well. Ben64, the console curator, coming at you today with another video that I'm absolutely thrilled about. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, Ben, you seem to be thrilled about all the videos you come out with. And you wouldn't be wrong. I absolutely am. But today's video, well, it's just a little bit different. To me, today's video represents the first foray into true console curation on the channel. And that's something that's incredibly important to me. You're probably wondering why? Why does that even matter, right? We live in 2024, a day and age where you can get an emulator with 30,000 games on it. And you're right, the cutting edge is absolutely incredible. How far we've come is phenomenal. But I think it's incredibly important we don't forget where we came from. And if you take a look at some of our, sister industries, things like movies, TV, music, you'll find that some of the original formats, while we may know what were on the discs or the reels and whatnot, they were lost. Lost to things like time, lost to things like technology, lost to light and water. And so now we may have records of some of these things, but no way to truly enjoy them, to truly experience them. And so that's one of the things that I think would be a true shame if it ever happened to, the console world. Today's video is brought to you by Andrew. He's one of those old school great friends and neighbors, the type where your parents would look at their house before your own house when looking for you in those afternoons when you were a kid. Andrew brought me his DMG 01, his original Game Boy. What really caught my eye on this thing was this, the Game Light. That's right, this harks back to a different era, an era pre-frontlit, pre-backlit, and all dark, where we realized the necessity of light very, very quickly, or at least us Nintendo gamers did. I ended up getting this and was immediately blown away by how awesome and how very 90s this piece of technology was, and thought it'd be an incredibly cool piece of technology to curate for my first true bit of curation on the channel. And so I took a dive down the rabbit hole that is the internet, and was incredibly blown away by what I ended up finding on the one and only eBay, and that was an in-box game light. So, without further delay, let's take a look at the NUBY Game Light. Wait, what? NUBY? N-U-B-Y. It's either Nubby or it's NUBY. All right, well, that changes things just a little bit. Let's take a look at the Game Light Plus and see if it was the ultimate way to enjoy the 90s video gaming experience. And while we're at it, let's ask the ultimate question. Was it ever good to be a noob? Stick around and find out. All right, so without any further delay, let's get right to the elephant that's been forced into the room. Was it ever good to be a noob? Now, funny enough, in the research for this video, I found out that noob has actually been added to the dictionary. It was added to the Oxford Dictionary in 2011, and I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And for those of you who do not know, which I assume is probably some 0.1%, a noob is defined as a person who takes part in an activity, usually an online video game, but lacks relevant knowledge and therefore performs badly. It's a burn meant to make newcomers feel unwelcome, like a high school freshman, and potentially get them to quit while they're behind. So there you go, guys. That's the definition of noob as according to the concise Oxford Dictionary. What I think is really, really cool about this whole thing is that if you look at this advertising, right, they knew what they were talking about. They were trying to popularize being a noob with instantaneous effect, right? We have a dramatic before and after as seen here. Right? I mean, come on, look at that. The kid is the definition of 90s cool. Who wouldn't want to be this snazzy kid? I mean, come on. I certainly would. So if you're looking for the definition of cool and the way of the future, clearly NUBY was trying to redefine a whole word, to take back a term, as it were. You tell me, did they succeed? All right, so getting into it, this is my official NUBY Game Light Plus, and as you can see in the original packaging, or so it claims, because you never know these days, people do the craziest things, but you'd never guess what this does by the packaging. You'd never guess that it may brighten and enlarge, but it does in fact apparently do both of those things, and that is quite important for this era, right? The current generation may not remember the olden days, but it used to be that you were very light source dependent, as a lot of people know. My first Game Boy was the Game Boy Color, and even that was not backlit. And so I found myself in the back of cars, often like trying to lean up to, especially at night, I would like wait as we passed the street lights, trying to use any of that. Now that was advantaged. I could do that because I was playing games like Pokemon. I've always been a Pokemon nerd, so it was okay on a turn-based game. But on games like Donkey Kong or anything where you had to like be involved, that was tougher. Certainly a lot more difficult. Tetris was one of the ones where in the beginning it was okay, but as the speed increased, you were kind of like really hoping that those street lights were spaced pretty liberally. So this was made to combat that. Right now, obviously, we have frontlit and backlit screens, but those wouldn't happen until the Game Boy Advance SP. So this comes out in, as best as I can tell, 1992. And as it says, for Game Boy, Game Light and Magnifier in one. Brightens and enlarges your Game Boy screen. Folds flat for easy storage. Well, we've seen how flat it folds looking at this other guy, if you call that flat. But if you take a look at it, right, we can see that we have the original, like, official NUBY product, and you can tell it's official. First of all, you gotta love the bright colors, the red, the yellows, this background we were crazy about in the late 80s, early 90s. Pretty much carpet background, I guess you could say. So I don't know why they just produced a silver metallic brick here with a volume and a microphone jack. But clearly it's supposed to be your Game Boy. As I did research on this, I found that this was actually the second iteration. That there was a precursor to this that was known as, wait for it, the Game Light. That's right. It didn't have the magnifier, it didn't have the plus, so to speak. But that one, the first iteration, was actually licensed by Nintendo officially, as you can see here. So I'm wondering why it is that the second version they came out with in '92 was not officially licensed and the other one was. And at first I thought like maybe that's why they have this weird game slab, because it's definitely not a Game Boy, right? There's no buttons, it's unplayable. But then there are like other packaging. There is other packaging of this, that you can observe here and here and here, where you can clearly see things that look either more Game Boy-ish, right, or Game Boy-esque because they're using different angles, or one that's just clearly a Game Boy, right? Like, I mean, come on, that's a Game Boy. This was not official, as you can tell. Doesn't have the seal, doesn't have any of that stuff. But why they got one of their products officially licensed and they didn't get this one licensed is interesting, especially because coming out in 1992, there was certainly plenty of life cycle left in this console. But let's get into it. There we go. All right. Bravery. You got to reward the bold. So, one of the things that I think is amazing is you'll notice that we have like the grooves, right, that the Game Boy has, right? So like the weird grooves here and everything like that. And that's a surprising amount of like detail, right? I mean, we have, our groove here and here. So this is a surprising amount of detail from the Game Boy for an image that's literally not even using its buttons. And there's actually a reason for that, and this really blew my mind. Because, to be honest, I really had no idea. And I didn't think I was still learning things about the DMG-01. But when I learned this, it was, last month, my mind was blown, right? I had no idea. I thought that the rails on there, that was just like a design thing to look nice, to be a cool feature in terms of like industrial 90s design, etc., etc. It's not. It's actually really, really cool. So as we get into this insert just slides out. Nothing to it but to do it. And we have our bigger, brighter, better. The NUBY Game Light Plus brightens and enlarges your Game Boy screen to improve contrast and visibility. Not sure how it's improving contrast. You'll enjoy bigger, brighter, better Nintendo action. So there you go, guys. So clearly, this was a time when it was good to be Noob. This was the era when you actually got direction manuals for everything. And I don't want to go too much into that for spoiler reasons. But whether you're getting them for a accessory or getting a game and getting the game booklet that we used to get, oh man, the new generation has no idea. But it was fantastic, new generation. And we should petition for it again. Anyway, here it is. Dun, 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 dun. The Game Light Plus. OM goodness. Now this thing is such a fantastic piece of 90s awesome, right? The color, perfect. Gray for some reason was the new black in the 90s. We were all about it. We loved over-engineering things. So a giant battery compartment on the top. Those rails that I mentioned a second ago, right? Those ones that they coincidentally show here and that also are present here are actually the mounting system for this. Mind blown. I mean, maybe you guys are like, yeah, I knew that. And if you did, then you are a rock star. Because I had no concept, no clue. And I think it's absolutely freaking awesome. It's fantastic. And what it does is it gives you two planes of connection, right? If we're looking here, we have two planes of connection between this rail and this tiny rail up here. And look how small they are. Like, they are tiny. Right? Like, that's less than a millimeter. I mean, come on. That's insanity. And the connection is robust. I have not put on a fresh Game Boy. Here's a moment of truth. I don't know if it's going to work on this one. I hope it does. The other thing that I think is really cool is when you open this up. Oh, yes. You hear that? The click. That's something new. Oh, being opened for the first time. And that is a glorious sound. And this pops up. Ooh, a little ASMR right there, and that's your magnifying window. Now, one of the things that's so fantastic is this is glass. That's right. That's something that's not happening nowadays. That's another testament and shout out to the fact that this is a 90s product. Moment of truth. Let's see if this works. Come on. Oh ho. Oh ho. No way. Did I just do it? I did. It's a little tricky right now because it's, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 30-plus-year-old component, but it's going on there. Oh my goodness. If it's going to come off, that's a different question. And let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty spot on. Look at that. And that confirms that question. And look, I mean, you guys obviously can't feel, but look how secure this is. Like, it ain't coming off. This is I mean, you saw how much I struggled to put it on. Granted, that's because this one is brand new and on a, Game Boy. But like this one, yeah, it takes some effort to get it off, but it's, it's moving. It's doable. You know what I mean? So, and it's still, right, an incredibly secure connection. Unbelievable. Believe it or not. Yeah, if anybody remembers watching that show growing up. So cool. I think what we need to do now, naturally, is we're going to have to test this out. And so, this is a cool way to play games in the most retro fashion you probably could, right? You're not compromising the experience or enhancing it or bettering it with a backlight. From what I've read, and I have not gotten to use one of these yet, we're doing this together, right? This is, a lot of people consider this to be the best magnification and lighting option for the DMG-01, which makes it a pretty cool option if you're trying to play as retro as we did. And why? Who knows? But maybe you're just a glutton for punishment. We definitely were back then, although it was a brighter time then. And yeah, so let's get this thing loaded up. I love how hefty a Game Boy gets when you throw 4 pieces of battery in the back. That metal is just hefty. I didn't even realize, right? But cutting it close. They did a good job of observing this little switch here and staying just shy of that. So that's well engineered. This is a piece of 90s engineering. I'm going to pop that. All right. I think that's how these are supposed to go in here. We've got them all snug as bug in here. Snug as a bug in a rug. And, oh yeah, that's going to be a tight fit. Yep, there we go. Oh yeah. When people call a Game Boy DMG01 a brick, this makes it a brick. What was this that said, like, super pocketable, right? Folds flat for easy storage. I'll let you guys be the judge. So, without any further delay, let's see what all this labor and all this battery power is going to get us. I feel like Tetris is a pretty good option to start with, and I think let's make this an experience. Let's learn about it and see how it goes. So, stock. That's cool. All right, now let's turn on the light and see how that looks. Whoa, 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 wee woo! That is the real deal. That is bright, like night light, bright. That is insane. Actually, the camera is having a hard time picking it up. My eyes are picking it up better than the camera is. So here, we'll play a little bit. And I'm going to be playing looking at my monitor because there's a, screen in my way. So forgive me. But for me playing in real life, it's really actually quite brilliant. It's pretty beautiful. So it's really clear when I'm actually looking at it. So this does actually look really, really good. Now, I'm going to flip this up. I love the music for this game. I love the beep boop, beep boop when you pause it. It's just fantastic. So now, let's pop this up. The screen. Oh my goodness. They even... Look at this. They even cut a groove in here to make sure you can see your battery power light at all times. Oh, this thing is beyond fantastic. What a brilliant piece of engineering. Oh my goodness. That gives you guys a pretty good idea, actually. So, yeah, look at the difference. Look at the difference. It's dramatic. So, before, after. And I can tell you that the experience is better in person than the camera is making it out to be. So I think this actually might be the best way to experience this thing. It's absolutely awesome. So I think I'm just going to have to keep playing and see what happens, see how much I like it and enjoy it and how much it brings me back to the 90s. I know I said I wanted to be taken back to the 90s, but this is ridiculous. I'll tell you what, this NUBY Game Light is powerful. Powerful enough to remind you that the past is present and the future, it's what you make it.